Hi everyone, I'm Kit. I use they, he, and she pronouns, and I'm I write musicals for stage and screen with my writing partner Melissa Lee.
Amazing. So, what would you say um, prompted, I guess, your interest in musical theater as a writer?
It's a great question. Let's see. I actually started out writing poetry. I really loved poetry from like a very young age, and I didn't grow up with American musical theater. I grew up in Hawaii where we had a lot of music and song and dance that was very, very integral to our culture. Actually, May Day just passed, May 1st, where every year, pretty much like every year of your life growing up, you do like a major song and dance presentation at school on May Day. Uh, and like my love for music and singing and dance and oral tradition, I think, came from being raised in Hawaii, which is like culturally influenced a lot by um, a lot of different folks, and especially Hawaiian culture, because we're on their land. And then when I went to college in Boston, actually, where I met Melissa, and she's so child genius. She like started writing a musical as a teenager that won a Larson, and I actually was a fan. I just went to her musical in Boston when I was going to school there, and then we didn't become friends until afterwards. We ended up going on tour together, and then writing a musical about that tour. But it, it's because I saw her write a musical that I thought, oh, our story as a band is so musical, it should also be a musical. So I actually didn't like grow up in the American theater community, or like didn't do plays or musicals growing up. I didn't even go to school for it. I just kind of like learned by doing, and I learned by doing what Melissa taught me, because she had already done it. And so yeah, and then afterwards we started getting into a lot of like fellowships and residencies and programs and stuff. So like the Dramatists Guild Foundation Fellowship, or I did a Playwright Center Fellowship for a year, and we did a whole bunch of those. And so I learned by um, by being in those cohorts too, and learned from like just watching other people do it, which was pretty cool because uh, wow, I was in cohorts with like just really prolific artists who taught me a lot.
Thank you. I think also, like, you mentioned Interstate, you didn't mention it by name, but like you talked about the fact that you were able to adapt something that is so near and dear to your experience, you and Melissa together. Um, would you mind talking a little bit more about, what exactly you thought needed to be told in that story? Because I, as somebody who's seen it, I'm like, and a fan. I would love for more people to know more about it.
Oh, thanks for asking. Interstate is just so near and dear to my heart because it's autobiographical. When we wrote the piece, we didn't really set out to join the musical theater community or even become writers. We're full-time writers now, but that was like never our goal. All we wanted to do was just like write it all down so we didn't forget ourselves and each other and our community. So the first drafts of Interstate, oh my gosh, you'll see um they're like a bunch of poems in my notebook, and there are a bunch of journal entries, and there are a bunch of just like little back and forth collabs between Melissa and I. And we just were like writing it all down. I think that's so important. If to remember yourself, like if if we never create like a Tony award winning hit or some sort of sensation or whatever, sell all our projects, it doesn't matter to us that much, because like the most important thing to us is that remember ourselves and we remember each other, because I think historically, like, um, the all the traditional and mainstream methods of publication or production often exclude our communities and our stories. So we don't we have not built our careers relying on the systems. We've just sort of like made sure to um, just keep remembering ourselves and each other.
Speaking of, yourselves and each other, do you notice anything particularly, special on your side or on the side of the performers you work with about, having other queer and trans people in the process on both sides of the table with you, particularly other Asian queer and trans people?
Yeah, it we in all of our projects, if we're doing a concert, a workshop, a production, we'll always advocate for folks from the community, from our community specifically, being on not only on stage. I think that's really obvious, like casting authentically, casting true to the story. That's something that people are starting to figure out is like what's right for the storytelling and to do the best work. But also we always try to make sure that behind the scenes, folks who are staffing, crewing, working on the show, producing, like behind the scenes, are also people from our communities, because um, as you know, theater, it takes a lot of people to make, and that's what's so special about it. And in my opinion, if the people making it also reflect the identities on stage, in the world and the story itself, it actually is going to tell a better story, because in our rooms, everybody's opinion matters. So everyone, if you have an idea about the story, or you want to contribute, you absolutely can. There isn't like a hierarchy of like only the director speaks, or um, yeah, the collaboration only happens in this part of the process. Like everyone is very important and valuable to the process. And so if our folks working on the show reflect the community, then they actually come with like ideas about the story because of lived experience or experience producing other kind of work like the work that we make. And so that's very important and very valuable to us. And ultimately, it just tells a better story.
We talk a lot about hierarchical structures and bureaucracy and red tape because we are in an academic institution. And yeah, I think that the leadership model doesn't always work for musical theater. So it would be really nice to see a way moving forward to be a little bit more like how you're describing. I'm very excited hearing that. So thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to say today?
Um, well, because you are a music organization, I do want to swing it right back around to some music too, because the kinds of things that we do, because we're often working in communities of color, communities of trans, queer, non-binary people, and we do tell a lot of stories from that community, because that's reflective of our identities. We do actually make sure to we try our best. We have a lot to learn too. Every time we do a process, we're like we do have a debrief of what can we do better. We definitely make mistakes, and we learn alongside our community, because there isn't quite a blueprint for what we do. So we're always just kind of like figuring out and tinkering, and uh, we're always leaning on each other as a community with everybody we work on to create this world that we want to live in, particularly around music. It's very important for us that our work meets our performers as well, where they're at. So we are writers that will always transpose the music. We are writers that always, when we're in the room rehearsing, we will change the notes, we will change the music, we will collab with the MD, we will collab with the singers, the music assistant teams. Like everybody on the team is in constant communication about um, one, like supporting. the performer, and two, what is the best for the show and what is the best for the storytelling. And so we're constantly uh, co-creating all of that stuff together, which I think is actually really important to the process because of the newness of the material, and because of the newness of the process. Like setting that kind of blueprint and expectation is really important to us, because musical theater takes a very long time to develop. We're in year 11 of working on Interstate. Oftentimes the people on the journey with us are actually with us for a long time too. So people's voices, bodies change, people's desires change. We have encountered all of that throughout the past decade of our careers, and it is important for us to go on that journey with our community, because that's life. That's like that's being human, changing over a decade. Everybody changes in really beautiful ways, and so it's important for us to continue to learn and grow and innovate and change right alongside our community.
That is spot on. I especially, again, the idea that the artists that are not on stage are part of the storytelling element, but considering actors as storytellers and considering their vocal, I just that is so core to part of my mission. Like our mission is simple, but like me is what I do creatively. So like that you're speaking directly to me on that one. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that we're on the same page and we're like kind of in this together. We really
Yeah,
are in this together.
I'm glad that we got to talk today. I haven't seen you in like I think since before the shutdown. But like
Saw you was the MTF gala before the pandemic.
yes, the MTF gala, that must have been it. Yes. Well, I'm glad that we got to talk today and I'm glad that this is a conversation that's going to be incorporating as many different sides of the theater community as possible because I do believe that the music affects everyone in musical theater
Oh, yes.
and that every single artist should be on the same page about, inclusive, effective practices
Yeah,
that are about making good art with people and appreciating the people that we have.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really takes a lot of people, so we gotta
Yes.
support each other. Yeah, Melissa and I actually took vocal lessons and vocal coaching ourselves. We don't really intend to be actor like full time or professional actors and stuff, but I do think it's important to it's important to us to know what everyone else goes through. So we this week we're on stage at LCT3. We're doing 5 concerts, singing our songs ourselves, which is just it's a lot. I'm Tonight is the third show. I'm like, wow, I'm like tired.
Yeah, I often perform a lot of the stuff that I write, not all of it, but I do perform a lot of the stuff that I write, and it's a different thing. It's not everyone's first choice. It's definitely grown on me, but I know that not everyone feels the same. And that's okay too. Because you then get other people that bring their own spin to the material, which is also super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's great about collaborating. It's like what we write, you just never know. And so often the performer will take what we have done and make it their own and make it better.
Yeah.